The billionaire stood frozen outside the women's shelter, his breath caught somewhere between disbelief and pain, as a thin teenage girl clutched a plastic bag and whispered her name to the receptionist. That name shattered his world, because it was the same name written on a trust fund worth $2 million, a trust fund that belonged to his missing granddaughter, declared lost 15 years ago. Before I go on, if you're listening to this story anywhere, on your phone, in your car, or late at night when everything feels quiet, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment telling me where you're listening from. It reminds me that these stories aren't being told into silence. Now, let me tell you how this impossible moment came to be. For most of the world, Samuel Whitmore was a legend. He was the kind of billionaire people read about in business magazines, self-made, sharp-eyed, disciplined. A man who built an empire from a single failing logistics company into a global operation worth billions. He owned penthouses in New York, estates in California, and boardroom seats that could sway entire markets. But none of that mattered to him anymore. At 72, Samuel's life had narrowed down to one unanswered question that haunted him every night. What happened to my granddaughter? 15 years ago, his only son, Daniel, had died in a car accident alongside his wife, Elaine. It was sudden, brutal, no warning. One moment they were alive, the next they were gone. Their daughter, 6-year-old Lily Whitmore, had vanished in the chaos that followed. At first, everyone believed it was a mistake, that she had been taken to a hospital or sent temporarily to a distant relative. Samuel mobilized everything: private investigators, law enforcement, international agencies. Millions were spent. No trace. Eventually, the authorities used a word Samuel hated. Presumed. Presumed lost. Presumed dead. But Samuel never accepted it. Quietly, without public announcements, he had placed $2 million into a protected trust fund under Lily's name. It was meant to grow until she turned 25. A safeguard, a promise. A promise that if she ever came back, she would never suffer. Years passed, the world moved on. Samuel did not. Then one rainy afternoon, something small changed everything. Samuel volunteered once a month at shelters and community kitchens, not as a photo opportunity, not for charity galas, but anonymously. No one there knew who he was. He wore old coats, drove an unremarkable car, and signed his name simply as Sam. That day, he was dropping off winter supplies at a women's shelter on the edge of the city. As he waited near the entrance, distracted and tired, he overheard a soft voice behind him. "My name is Lily," the girl said quietly. "I'm 17. I don't have any family left." Samuel turned slowly. The girl was thin, pale from exhaustion, her clothes worn but clean. Her dark hair was pulled back with a fraying elastic band. She clutched a plastic bag that held everything she owned. Her eyes met his for a brief second, and something inside Samuel broke. It wasn't logic. It wasn't reason. It was instinct. The name alone shouldn't have been enough. But it was the way she said it, the slight hesitation, the way she stood, alert, guarded, like someone who had learned not to expect kindness. Samuel's heart began to pound. He told himself it was impossible. Millions of girls were named Lily. Still, his feet moved before his mind caught up. "Excuse me," he said gently. "Can I ask your last name?" The girl hesitated, then shook her head. "I don't use it anymore." That answer felt like a knife. Samuel swallowed. "Do you remember it?" She shrugged, eyes down. "I think so, but it doesn't matter. Nobody ever come looking." Nobody. That single word echoed in his head. Samuel forced himself to breathe. "How long have you been on your own?" She looked up at him then, really looked, as if deciding whether he was safe. "Since I was 6, she said softly, "after my parents died." The world tilted. Samuel's hands trembled. How did they die?" he asked, his voice barely steady. "Car accident," she replied. "That's what they told me." Samuel felt the blood drain from his face. Every detail lined up too perfectly. Still, fear held him back. Fear of hope, fear of being wrong. He needed proof. "Do you remember your parents' names?" he asked. The girl closed her eyes for a moment, as if pulling the memory from deep inside. "My dad was Daniel," she said. "My mom was Elaine." Samuel staggered backward as if struck. The shelter walls seemed to blur. There was no mistaking it now. The missing child. The lost granddaughter. Standing in front of him. Alive. And homeless. Samuel reached for the counter to steady himself. "Sir," the receptionist asked, "are you okay?" Samuel didn't answer. He was staring at the girl, his granddaughter, trying to understand how a child protected by wealth, lawyers, and a $2 million trust fund had ended up in a shelter. Lily noticed his reaction and stiffened. "I didn't do anything wrong," she said quickly. "I swear, I work when I can, I don't have papers or anyone." Samuel's eyes filled with tears he hadn't allowed himself in 15 years. "No," he whispered, "you didn't do anything wrong." He took a step closer. "My dear, where is your $2 million trust fund?" The girl blinked at him, confused. "My what?" That answer crushed him more than anything else. Because it meant the unthinkable was true. Someone had stolen her life. And someone was going to answer for it. Lily stared at the old man like he'd spoken in a language she didn't understand. "My trust fund," she repeated slowly. "Sir, I think you've got the wrong person." Samuel felt his chest tighten. He could see fear creeping into her eyes now, the kind that came from years of adults asking questions that never ended well. "I'm sorry," he said quickly, lowering his voice. "I didn't mean to scare you. Let's just sit for a moment." He gestured toward a small bench near the shelter wall. Lily hesitated, then sat, keeping her plastic bag close, like it might disappear if she let go. Samuel sat too, leaving space between them. "My name is Sam," he said. "I knew a little girl named Lily once, a long time ago." She nodded politely, not committing to anything. Samuel studied her face more carefully now, the curve of her nose, the shape of her eyes. Daniel's eyes, he thought. "Do you remember anything about your life before the accident?" he asked. Lily's shoulders stiffened. "Some things," she said, "not all of it." "Anything about your family?" he pressed gently. She let out a small, humorless laugh. "They told me my parents didn't have anyone else. No grandparents, no aunts, no uncles." Samuel closed his eyes for a brief moment. A lie. A carefully planted one. "Who told you that?" he asked. "Social services, I guess," Lily replied. "After the accident, I was in the hospital. Then a woman came. She said she was handling everything." "What was her name?" Lily frowned, thinking. "Margaret, I think." Samuel's jaw tightened. Margaret Whitmore. His own sister-in-law. The woman who had insisted, all those years ago, that she would handle the paperwork, while Samuel was drowning in grief. The same woman who had quietly taken control of Daniel's estate while Samuel was arranging funerals. Samuel felt sick. "Did you ever live with her?" he asked. Lily shook her head. "No, she said it was temporary. I stayed in foster homes, different ones." "How many?" Samuel asked. Lily shrugged. "I stopped counting." That answer hurt more than any number could. "Were you treated well?" he asked, already fearing the response. She hesitated. Some places were okay, some were. Samuel didn't ask for details. He didn't need them. He could already see the scars, not the visible kind, but the way she avoided eye contact, the way she spoke like someone who expected disappointment. "And when did you end up on your own?" he asked. "When I turned 16, Lily said. "The last family said they couldn't keep me. After that, I just moved around, shelters, couch surfing, sometimes sleeping in places I probably shouldn't." Samuel clenched his fists. 16 years old. While $2 million sat untouched, in an account with her name on it. "Lily," he said softly, "if I told you that your grandfather has been looking for you for 15 years, would you believe me?" She looked at him, searching his face. "I don't know you," she said honestly. "That's fair," Samuel replied, "but I need you to hear this." He took a deep breath. "My son Daniel was my only child," he said. "When he and his wife died, their daughter disappeared. We were told she was gone, but I never believed it." Lily's breathing slowed. "My name," he continued, "is Samuel Whitmore." Her eyes widened slightly, not with recognition, but with confusion. "Okay," she said cautiously. "I am very wealthy," he added, "but more importantly, I am your grandfather." The words hung between them. Lily stood up abruptly. "No," she said. "No, that's not funny." "I'm not joking," Samuel said, standing as well. "I know your parents' names. I know the birthmark on your shoulder." Her hand flew to her arm. "You know about the scar on your knee from falling off a swing," he continued, "and the stuffed rabbit you refused to sleep without." Lily's face drained of color. "That's not," her voice cracked, "that's not something anyone knows." Samuel's voice broke. "I know, because I held you the night it happened." Silence. Lily's knees buckled, and Samuel caught her before she hit the floor. She didn't cry right away. She just stood there, trembling, as if her body didn't know how to react to hope. "You're lying," she whispered. "You have to be." "I wish I were," Samuel said, "because then this wouldn't hurt so much." She pulled away, packing now. "If you're my grandfather," she said, "then why did no one come for me?" The question cut deeper than anything else. Samuel swallowed hard. "Because someone didn't want me to find you," he said, "and I didn't look hard enough in the right places." Tears spilled down Lily's face, angry now. "I was hungry," she said. "I was scared. I begged people to help me. Where were you?" Samuel felt every word like a blow. "I failed you," he said quietly, "and I will spend the rest of my life making that right." She laughed bitterly. "With money." "With truth," Samuel replied, "and justice." He reached into his coat and pulled out his phone. "There is a trust fund in your name," he said. $2 million, created when you were 6. It's been sitting untouched because no one ever claimed you." Lily stared at the phone like it might explode. "You're saying, all this time I didn't have to?" "No," Samuel said firmly. "You didn't." She slid down onto the bench, her strength gone. "All those nights," she whispered, "all that pain for nothing." "For someone else's greed," Samuel corrected. He crouched in front of her. "And I promise you this," he said, "the people who did this will not walk away." Lily looked at him through tears. "I don't know how to trust this," she said. "You don't have to trust me today," Samuel replied. "Just let me take you somewhere safe tonight." She hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Okay," she said, "but if this is a lie." "It's not," Samuel said, "and soon everyone will know the truth." As they walked toward the door, Samuel made a silent vow. Margaret Whitmore had stolen 15 years of a child's life. And now, the bill was coming due. The car ride was quiet. Not the comfortable kind of quiet, but the kind where every thought feels too loud to say out loud. Lily sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window as the city lights slid past. She kept her plastic bag on her lap, fingers knotted through the handles like a lifeline. Every few seconds, she glanced at Samuel, as if checking whether he was still real. Samuel drove slowly, carefully. His hands trembled on the steering wheel, not from age, but from the weight of what he was carrying inside. "I don't live far," he said gently. "Just a guest house tonight, nothing overwhelming." She nodded, but didn't answer. When the gates opened, Lily stiffened. The driveway curved through manicured trees, lights glowing softly along the path. The house, no, estate rose ahead of them, quiet and dignified, nothing flashy, but unmistakably powerful. Lily's breath caught. This can't be your house," she said. "It is," Samuel replied. but it doesn't have to mean anything to you yet. He parked near a smaller building, set apart from the main house. You'll stay here tonight, he said. Private, safe. She stepped out slowly, looking around as if afraid someone would shout at her for being there. Inside, the guest house was warm, clean, a bed with thick blankets, a small kitchen stocked with food. Lily froze in the doorway. I can't pay for this, she said. Samuel turned to her. You don't have to, he replied. You already paid in ways no one should. She swallowed hard. He gestured to the bed. Sleep. Tomorrow we'll talk, and if you want to leave at any point, I won't stop you. She nodded again. That night, Lily didn't sleep. Every sound made her flinch. Every shadow felt temporary, like it might vanish if she blinked. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything he'd said. Grandfather. Trust fund. $2 million. It sounded like a cruel joke life would pull just to hurt her again. But then she remembered the details he knew. The birthmark. The scar. The stuffed rabbit. No one had ever asked her about those things before. Across the property, Samuel sat in his study, staring at an old photo. It showed a little girl sitting on his shoulders, laughing, holding onto his hair. Lily. His hands shook as he set the photo down. He picked up the phone and dialed a number he hadn't called in years. It rang once. Twice. Then, Samuel, came the familiar voice. Margaret, he said coldly, we need to talk. A pause. It's late, she replied carefully. I found Lily, Samuel said. Silence. Then a sharp inhale. That's not possible, Margaret said quickly. They declared her. Alive, Samuel interrupted, and living in a shelter. Another pause, longer this time. That's unfortunate, Margaret said, but surely you understand mistakes happen. Mistakes don't last 15 years, Samuel said, and mistakes don't involve trust funds. Margaret's voice hardened. What are you accusing me of? You took control of Daniel's estate, Samuel said. You handled the paperwork. You told me Lily had no surviving relatives. I was protecting the family, Margaret snapped. You were grieving. You weren't thinking clearly. You stole from a child, Samuel said quietly. I did what I had to do, she replied. That money would have been wasted on foster care fees and court battles. Samuel closed his eyes. You're going to explain yourself, he said, to lawyers, to the court, and to Lily. Margaret laughed softly. You think she'll believe you? She doesn't even know who she is. Samuel ended the call. The next morning, Lily woke to the smell of food. She crept into the kitchen, hesitant, and found a woman setting the table. Oh, the woman said warmly. You must be Lily, I'm Grace. Lily froze. Relax, Grace said gently. I work here, you're safe. Samuel entered a moment later. Good morning, he said. Did you sleep? Lily shrugged, a little. He nodded, understanding more than she realized. After breakfast, Samuel sat across from her. There are things we need to do, he said. Birth records, DNA tests, legal confirmations. She stiffened. You don't believe me, she asked. I believe you completely, Samuel said, but the world requires proof. She nodded slowly. And after that, she asked. After that, he said, you get to decide what comes next. She looked down at her hands. What if I don't fit into your world? She asked. Samuel smiled sadly. Then my world will change. Later that day, Lily stood in front of a mirror in a clothing store. She barely recognized herself. Clean clothes, new shoes, her hair brushed. She looked normal. And that scared her more than sleeping outside ever had. As they left, she stopped suddenly. Can I ask you something? She said. Anything, Samuel replied. If I'm really your granddaughter, she said slowly, why did they let me disappear? Samuel didn't answer right away. Because, he said finally, Some people saw you as an obstacle, not a child. That night, Lily lay in bed again, but this time she cried. Not from fear. From grief. Because somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered something dangerous. What if this is real? And if it was, then someone had stolen her life. The room was quiet, except for the soft hum of the air conditioner. Lily sat at the long wooden table, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Across from her, a woman in a crisp suit opened a slim folder and slid a document forward. This will just be a cheek swab, the woman said kindly. It won't hurt. Lily nodded, though her heart was pounding. Samuel sat beside her, close enough that she could feel his presence without feeling trapped. Take your time, he murmured. The swab was quick, simple, almost disappointingly ordinary for something that felt like it would decide her entire life. When it was done, the technician sealed the sample and left the room. Lily let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. And now, she asked. Now we wait, Samuel said, but we don't stop. He opened another folder. This one thicker. Everything about your trust fund is documented here, he said. Dates, accounts, authorizations. Lily stared at the papers like they were written in code. This was set up when you were 6, Samuel continued. The money has been untouched, not a single dollar spent. She looked up sharply. Then why didn't anyone use it to help me? She asked. Samuel's voice grew tight. Because someone prevented it. He slid one page toward her. This signature, he said. Margaret Whitmore. She was appointed temporary guardian on paper, but she never took physical custody of you. Lily frowned. So she had control without responsibility. Exactly, Samuel replied. Lily's hands trembled as she pushed the paper away. She knew, Lily whispered. All those years she knew. Yes, Samuel said softly. The realization hit Lily like a wave. All the nights she'd gone hungry. All the foster homes. All the fear. None of it had been unavoidable. It had been allowed. I want to see her, Lily said suddenly. Samuel stiffened. Lily. I want to look at her, Lily said, her voice steady now. I need to know what kind of person does that. Samuel studied her face for a long moment. All right, he said finally, but not alone and not without preparation. Later that afternoon, Lily sat in Samuel's study while 2 lawyers spoke quietly across the desk. We can file a civil claim immediately, one said. Misappropriation, negligence, emotional damages. And criminal, Samuel asked. Possible, the other replied, but that depends on intent. Samuel's jaw tightened. There was intent. Lily listened silently. For now, the lawyer continued, the priority is protecting Lily. Temporary guardianship, secured accounts, identity restoration. Lily raised her head. Identity restoration. Yes, the lawyer said gently. Your records are fragmented. Different last names, different addresses. We need to rebuild your official history. Lily nodded slowly. So even her identity had been broken apart. That evening, Lily stood in front of a full-length mirror again. This time, she didn't recognize the girl looking back. She saw strength in her eyes. That night, Samuel found her sitting outside, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the stars. Do you remember this place? He asked. She shook her head. I remember a swing, she said quietly, and someone pushing me. Samuel smiled sadly. That was me. She looked at him, eyes shining. Why didn't you stop looking? She asked. Samuel's voice broke. Because the day I stop is the day I accept that I failed you completely. She nodded. I think, she said slowly, I want my life back. You can have it, Samuel said, on your terms. The next morning, the phone rang. Samuel answered, listened, then slowly sat down. It's confirmed, he said. Lily stood up, heart racing. The DNA test, she asked. Samuel nodded. You are my granddaughter. The words landed softly, and then all at once. Lily collapsed into the chair, shaking. "It's real," she whispered. Samuel crossed the room and held her as she cried. Not the quiet crying of fear, but the deep, aching sobs of a child who finally felt seen. A knock sounded at the door. The lawyer stepped in, face serious. "Margaret has been served," he said. "She's denying everything." Lily wiped her eyes. "Good," she said, "because I'm done being invisible." The courtroom smelled like old paper and polished wood. Lily sat beside Samuel, her hands clasped together so tightly her knuckles were white. She wore a simple navy dress, nothing flashy, nothing borrowed from wealth. She wanted to look like herself, not like someone pretending to belong. Across the room sat Margaret Whitmore. Perfect posture, perfect hair, pearl earrings that caught the light when she turned her head. She didn't look at Lily. Not once. The judge entered, and everyone stood. As they sat back down, Lily felt a strange calm settle over her. The fear that had followed her for years was gone. What remained was something steadier. Resolve. The attorney rose first, outlining the case. Dates, documents, signatures, a paper trail that stretched back 15 years. "Mrs. Whitmore was appointed temporary guardian," the attorney said. "Yet she failed to claim the child, failed to release funds for her care, and failed to notify surviving family members of the child's whereabouts." Margaret's lawyer stood next. "This is a tragic misunderstanding," he said smoothly. "My client acted in what she believed were the child's best interests." Samuel's hands clenched. The judge turned to Margaret. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said, "do you wish to address the court?" Margaret stood slowly. "I loved my niece," she said, her voice steady. "But after the accident, everything was chaos. Records were lost. People made assumptions." She glanced briefly at Lily, then away again. "I did what I could." Lily felt a spark of anger flare in her chest. When it was Lily's turn to speak, the room seemed to hold its breath. She stood. Her voice was quiet, but clear. "You didn't lose me," Lily said. "You abandoned me." Margaret stiffened. "I was 6, Lily continued. "I asked for my grandfather, I asked for help. You told me I didn't have anyone." She took a breath. "I slept in homes where people forgot my name. I aged out of the system without a dollar to my name. And all that time, my life was sitting in an account you controlled." Margaret's face hardened. "You wouldn't have survived the attention," she snapped suddenly. "You were better off invisible." The room went silent. The judge's expression darkened. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said sharply, "that will be enough." Lily felt something release inside her. The truth was out. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered. Samuel shielded Lily as cameras flashed. "Miss Whitmore," someone called, "how does it feel to learn you're a millionaire?" Lily stopped walking. She turned. "It feels like learning someone stole your childhood," she said calmly. "Money doesn't fix that." That answer made headlines. That night, Lily sat in Samuel's study again. "I don't want to be defined by this," she said. "By her." Samuel nodded. "Then you won't be." The next morning, the judge's ruling came through. Margaret's temporary guardianship was terminated permanently. A criminal investigation was opened. And Lily's trust fund was officially unlocked. $2 million. Lily stared at the statement on the screen. "All this," she whispered. "Yes," Samuel said, "but it's not a prize, it's a responsibility." She nodded. "I want to use some of it to help kids like me," she said. "Kids who fall through the cracks." Samuel smiled through tears. "That," he said, "is exactly what your parents would have wanted." The courtroom smelled like old paper and polished wood. Lily sat beside Samuel, her hands clasped together so tightly her knuckles were white. She wore a simple navy dress, nothing flashy, nothing borrowed from wealth. She wanted to look like herself, not like someone pretending to belong. Across the room sat Margaret Whitmore. Perfect posture, perfect hair, pearl earrings that caught the light when she turned her head. She didn't look at Lily. Not once. The judge entered, and everyone stood. As they sat back down, Lily felt a strange calm settle over her. The fear that had followed her for years was gone. What remained was something steadier. Resolve. The attorney rose first, outlining the case. Dates, documents, signatures, a paper trail that stretched back 15 years. Mrs. Whitmore was appointed temporary guardian, the attorney said. Yet she failed to claim the child, failed to release funds for her care, and failed to notify surviving family members of the child's whereabouts. Margaret's lawyer stood next. "This is a tragic misunderstanding," he said smoothly. "My client acted in what she believed were the child's best interests." Samuel's hands clenched. The judge turned to Margaret. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said, "do you wish to address the court?" Margaret stood slowly. "I loved my niece," she said, her voice steady. "But after the accident, everything was chaos. Records were lost. People made assumptions." She glanced briefly at Lily, then away again. "I did what I could." Lily felt a spark of anger flare in her chest. When it was Lily's turn to speak, the room seemed to hold its breath. She stood. Her voice was quiet, but clear. "You didn't lose me," Lily said. "You abandoned me." Margaret stiffened. "I was 6, Lily continued. "I asked for my grandfather, I asked for help. You told me I didn't have anyone." She took a breath. "I slept in homes where people forgot my name. I aged out of the system without $1 to my name. And all that time, my life was sitting in an account you controlled." Margaret's face hardened. "You wouldn't have survived the attention." She snapped suddenly. "You were better off invisible." The room went silent. The judge's expression darkened. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said sharply, "that will be enough." Lily felt something release inside her. The truth was out. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered. Samuel shielded Lily as cameras flashed. "Miss Whitmore," someone called, "how does it feel to learn you're a millionaire?" Lily stopped walking. She turned. "It feels like learning someone stole your childhood," she said calmly. "Money doesn't fix that." That answer made headlines. That night, Lily sat in Samuel's study again. "I don't want to be defined by this," she said. "By her." Samuel nodded. "Then you won't be." The next morning, the judge's ruling came through. Margaret's temporary guardianship was terminated permanently. A criminal investigation was opened. And Lily's trust fund was officially unlocked. $2 million. Lily stared at the statement on the screen. "All this," she whispered. "Yes," Samuel said, "but it's not a prize, it's a responsibility." She nodded. "I want to use some of it to help kids like me," she said. "Kids who fall through the cracks." Samuel smiled through tears. "That," he said, "is exactly what your parents would have wanted." The offer came in a plain white envelope. No logo, no dramatic announcement. Just a letter, slid quietly onto Samuel's desk one morning. Lily was the one who opened it. She read the first line, then sat down slowly. "What is it?" Samuel asked. Lily looked up, conflicted. "They want me to take over my father's old position," she said, "on the board." Samuel blinked. "Already?" "They say it would complete the family legacy," Lily replied, a hint of bitterness in her voice. Samuel leaned back, exhaling. "That world can be heavy," he said carefully, "and unforgiving." Lily nodded. "That's what scares me." She had spent months rebuilding her identity, learning, healing, finding her voice. Stepping into a glass tower filled with power suits and quiet judgments felt like walking back into a cage she hadn't chosen. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. She wandered the house until she found Samuel in the study, reading. "Did you ever feel trapped by all this?" she asked suddenly. Samuel closed the book. "Every day," he said honestly, "but I stayed because I thought the company was my responsibility." "And was it?" Lily asked. Samuel considered the question. "No," he said. "It was my excuse." Lily sat across from him. "What if I say no?" she asked. "Then you'll be free," Samuel said, "and the world will keep spinning." The next morning, Lily made her decision. She declined the offer. Politely, firmly. The response was swift. Headlines questioned her judgment. Billionaire heir rejects legacy. Shelter girl turns down power seat. Comment sections exploded. Some called her ungrateful. Others called her brave. Lily didn't read any of it. Instead, she visited a youth shelter, the same one where Samuel had first seen her. The receptionist looked up and froze. "Lily," she whispered. Lily smiled. "Hi." She spent the afternoon talking to girls who reminded her of herself. No cameras, no speeches. Just listening. That evening, Lily stood on the shelter steps, watching the sun set. "I didn't lose anything by saying no," she said to Samuel. "I gained myself." Samuel nodded, pride shining in his eyes. Weeks later, the sentencing came. Margaret stood alone as the verdict was read. Guilty. The judge spoke firmly about abuse of power and the cost of neglect. Margaret never looked at Lily. As she was led away, Lily felt no triumph. Only closure. That night, Lily sat with Samuel on the porch. "What happens now?" she asked. Samuel smiled softly. "Now," he said, "you live." Lily looked up at the sky. "For the first time," she said, "I know who I am." And somewhere deep inside, the little girl who had once slept with a plastic bag under her head finally rested. The question that had haunted Lily for most of her life came back to her on a quiet morning. Not shouted. Not dramatic. Just a whisper inside her chest. Who am I now? She stood alone in the guest house that no longer felt like a temporary place. Sunlight spilled through the window, touching the small shelf where she'd placed a photo of her parents, finally recovered from an old archive Samuel's investigators had found. For years, she had survived by shrinking herself, by staying quiet, by not asking, by expecting nothing. Now the world expected everything. And Lily realized something important. She didn't owe the world a performance. She owed herself a life. That afternoon, Lily and Samuel drove without security, without cameras, without schedules, just the two of them. They stopped at a small diner off the highway. Samuel smiled as he slid into the booth. "Your father loved places like this." Lily smiled back. "So do I." They ate slowly, talking about ordinary things, weather, books, the strange comfort of routine. At one point, Lily looked at him and asked the question she'd never dared to ask before. "Did you ever give up on me?" Samuel didn't answer right away. "No," he said finally, "but I gave up on the idea that I might find you alive, and that's something I'll regret forever." Lily reached across the table and held his hand. "I'm here," she said. "That's what matters." A month later, Lily stood again at the women's shelter. This time, not as a guest, but as a donor, a mentor, a presence. She didn't announce herself. She just showed up. She helped one girl fill out college forms, sat with another while she cried, listened to stories that sounded too much like her own. One girl finally asked, "Why do you keep coming back?" Lily answered without thinking. "Because this is where I was found," she said, "and no one should feel invisible here." The foundation grew, not fast, not flashy, but steady. Real help. Real names restored. Real families reunited. And every time a child reclaimed a birth certificate, a history, a place in the world, Lily felt something inside her heal. On Lily's 18th birthday, Samuel handed her a small envelope. Not legal papers. Not bank statements. Just a handwritten note. "You were never lost," it read. "The world just failed to look carefully enough." That night, they sat together on the porch again. The same stars. A different future. You know, Lily said softly, I used to think money would fix everything. Samuel smiled. And now? Now I know it just gives you choices, she replied. What you do with them, that's who you are. Samuel nodded, eyes shining. My granddaughter, he said, was never defined by a trust fund. Lily leaned her head on his shoulder. She had been a missing child. A foster kid. A shelter resident. But now, she was found. She was whole. She was home. And somewhere in a quiet office, an untouched account once labeled $2 million trust fund finally made sense, not as stolen wealth, but as a promise delayed and fulfilled. Before you go, if this story moved you in any way, please tap like to support the channel. And if you haven't yet, subscribe so you don't miss more stories of justice, healing, and quiet strength. I'd also love to hear from you. Where are you listening from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments and let me know what part of Lily's journey stayed with you the most. Thank you for listening.